Dawson's Rambles.
Hey YouTube, Dawson Rider here, continuing my series of videos where I discuss my thoughts on various tokusatsu of Sentai Rider and the like. You know, I started this video series a while back and I got a pretty good response to it. It's been a while since there's been a lot going on, but I do enjoy making these, and full disclosure, I have about 2 or 3 that I pre-filmed like last year that are waiting to come out, but I wanted to come out with some that are sort of more timely. So this video, obviously you can tell by clicking on it, is my thoughts on every Digimon. No, that was a lame joke. Why am I, that's not even a joke, that's just... what even is that? This is my thoughts on every secondary rider suit. I wanted to time it up with our debut of our recent secondary rider, Kamen Rider Majade, in the Gotchard series, and then I'm hoping to follow it up next week with my thoughts on third/tertiary riders. Also, like, I'm using the wiki as like my official source for like the categorization and stuff like that. You know, I think I generally knew what the secondary riders were. There was some in the tertiaries that surprised me, but if you know my videos, you know I'm not one to overly care about the categorization, meaning like, yeah, I've thought about the categorization in my head of like who's the secondary rider, who's the sixth ranger, but if you think of it differently, it doesn't bother me. I think fans get way too hung up on that. But anyway, let's go ahead and get started. I'm going to go over all the primary ones, and then the wiki does have some like other ones that are considered sort of secondary riders I'll just bring up just in case. But let's go ahead and get started. So first up we have Kamen Rider G3/G3X from the Agito series. I'll say in general this is a suit that I don't necessarily love, but I don't necessarily hate. Kind of one of those ones that just sits on the fence of like, I appreciate it for what it is. I do kind of like the core like bug aesthetic of Rider combined with this sort of police combat outfit, but I think my favorite thing about it is that he actually puts it on just like a regular like Batman suit rather than having a henshin device, which was really cool, and it's something I'd like to see in the future. Not like a regular thing, but I thought that was kind of something interesting and different in regards to where the technology was at. Then you have Kamen Rider Knight/Wing Knight from Dragon Knight and Ryuki, which this is one of those suits that's designed to be like the cool fan favorite. I mean, it's a badass like Batman Knight Rider suit, and it works. You know, it's one of those ones that's like a basic favorite, but I still love it. I don't care if it's a basic opinion. I think it's so well designed and slick, especially just the way the visor looks with like the bat wing. It's just simple and effective, and easily one of my favorites from that ecosystem. Then you have Kaiza. Like, to be honest, in general, I like the Faiz suits fine, like the whole ecosystem of them, and I appreciate them for what they are, but they've never been a favorite. They are also ones that sit on a fence where none of them necessarily lean towards like ones I really dislike, but none of them lean towards favorites, and I just kind of generally like Kaiza just fine, kind of like Faiz. I don't have a whole lot to say. I do think the color contrast is interesting with the yellow, and then I think it's like the purple visor with the eyes, but yeah, not too much to say. Then you have Garen. It's really funny going into this, thinking about it in the back of my head. I like Blade and Garrett's suits. Garrett? Niece? I like Blade and Garrett's suits fine. I just said Garrett again. Blade and Garen's suits fine, but I remember them being kind of like boring. Not bad, but just kind of boring. But then I was like image gathering for this video, and Garen actually, when you zoom in on it, has some really nice details. Like, I do still like both suits, but I think Blade comes off a little more boring when you look at Garen's like... Oh, I said it right. I thought I said Garrett again. I was like, oh no, Garen's right. Anyway, man, I'm getting distracted. I don't know why Garrett's tripping. When you look at the designs on the helmet, like it's got kind of this clear design on the horns, when then you have like the actual like stag beetle horn designs, and there's lots more little details I didn't notice before, which is really neat. So I have to say though, I still think that they're both a little bit understated when you look at them like from a distance, but when you zoom in, Garen actually has some really cool details, and I do like how they almost kind of mirror each other with the opposite colors of red and blue, and then like him, almost looks like you took Blade's horn and opened it, but it kind of works for just the way they're kind of on opposing sides in a way sometimes. But I don't know, Garen was cooler than I thought. Not like I disliked him, but looking at more detailed pics, I'm like, oh, there's more going on than I thought. Then you have Ibuki, which actually has recently become one of my favorite rider suits. Like, I never really considered Ibuki too much. I never thought about him all that much, if I'm being honest, you know, because my focus was kind of on Hibiki-san, and then you've got, well, I hate that I just said Hibiki-san, but like they say it in the show like that. Anyway, and Todoroki and Zanki were kind of more standouts as well, including the awesome music they played, I think was Todoroki's theme, the da-na-na-na-na-na-na. So Ibuki I feel always just gets forgotten. But when I was on a figure arts kick a while ago, like shopping for some figure arts, I was looking for Hibiki ones, and I wasn't really looking for Ibuki's, but it popped up, and I was looking at the pictures, I'm like, that's a really good suit, and I started looking at more pictures of it, and it's probably one of my favorite Hibiki suits. It's just a really beautiful suit. It's got lots of interesting little details on it. The blue is beautiful and dark and vibrant, but it's not muted. It almost shines despite the fact that it's dark. And you know, despite the fact that I like Todoroki and Zanki a lot, I actually like this suit a lot better. Very underappreciated suit. Something else I was thinking about with this list, even though this is my thoughts on the suits, is, you know, often the secondary rider, or not always, but sometimes they'll sort of have like an opposing theme or an opposite theme to the main rider, or like an opposing character view, and I was like, Ibuki's gotta be like the most like chill secondary rider, because I don't recall him ever getting in any big battles with Hibiki, and I was trying to think how in any way he's a mirror, and then it made me think of like Hibiki's whole thing is like, for most of the series, is he just was a loner that doesn't want to teach, but Ibuki's entire story revolves around the fact that he wants to teach. Anyway, then you have Gotchard, and this is where it's funny, where like the categorization of like, this is the secondary rider, but he's like the 5th rider to debut. But probably my favorite suit of the Kabuto suits. I think I touched on this when I talked about the main suits, but I love the Kabuto suits because I think they are designed by the same dude that did Beetleborg suits, so in general I just really like them and attached to them. This is like a blue version of the Hunter Beetleborg. It's just so well designed, and I unironically would still love a Beetleborg's revival series using the Kabuto suits. Now, you probably think that's funny to say because I'm like, oh, you know, let's get away from Sentai and Power Rangers, but I would like to see it just because obviously the suits work for it. But can you imagine how much the purists would lose it? I am nourished by their hatred! Next up is Zeronos. I really do like Zeronos' design. I think a lot of my attachment to it comes up from just loving the character and like the fact that that suit is powered by him erasing memories of his future self. I feel like it's a really understated secondary rider suit, and this was the era from Zeronos through, I don't know, right before Gaim, whatever the series was before Gaim that I'm blanking on right now. The secondary riders were kind of almost treated like Six Ranger debuts, and just it feels like it's a cool suit design that stands out and is unique in a way, but also feels a little bit understated. But I still really do like it. I love the green color they use, the contrast with a little bit of a gold. Just a solid suit. But then you have Ixa, easily one of my all-time favorite suits. You know, Kiva was my first series, and I attached to this suit very early on. As you know, I'm really a big sucker for white toku suits for Rider and Ranger that look really slick, and this one just looks so awesome. You got that white-gold contrast, it's got a little bit of robotic aspect. I love the way that like the visor opens up like a knight and the eyes shine through. Just one of my favorite suits. I always have a hard time deciding what my favorite Kiva suit is. I think it changes depending on my mood, because I love this one, I love Dark Kiva, I love Prime Kiva, I love Saga. Just so many great suits in this series. The End, I'm gonna be honest, is one of my lesser favorites. It's one that I've gotten used to over the years, but I remember being really disappointed by it. Like, when Decade came out, I was like super stoked and like into the Decade mood. I don't know what a Decade mood is. I guess kind of being a douche. Really like the Decade suit, and I remember like we got news about the secondary rider and pictures earlier because it was a more condensed series, and people were thinking, oh, he's gonna transform into secondary riders, and then he wound up summoning them, which I'm still kind of disappointed by, just because, I don't know, I thought someone should transform into secondary riders. But that's neither here nor there. In general, I just found him to be kind of more fugly than I thought he was going to be. Again, I've gotten used to it, but it's never been my cup of tea. Speaking of not my cup of tea, Axel. Like, I don't mind Axel's design. I kind of appreciate it for what it is. I really like the red color they used. It's just a weird one for me, because it's like taking one of those toy gimmick figures that you would see from Power Rangers. Not like, it's not a knock at Power Rangers, but you know, they'd have ones where it's like, the Ranger transforms into a Zord for some reason. I know there are actual Rangers that transform into their Zords, but you know what I mean. But it's an actual person. It's just weird. It's just weird, and it's like not one of my favorite designs in general. And also, just speaking of like the themes, I couldn't figure out like why they chose to give this to him in terms of like how does it fit in with the rest of the other suits in the ecosystem and opposing the main rider. Their characters do, because he's like official by the books cop, and then of course the main character is a private eye. So their characters have that classic main rider, secondary rider sort of like inverse perspective thing. But how does, I don't know, just like his double is almost like not alchemy, but like you're combining two elements in this classic rider suit, and then he's a dude that turns into a bike. I mean, there is the fact that he only uses one guy in memory and double uses two, but so does the Lost Driver. I don't know, I just find it to be a little bit confusing. Kamen Rider Birth is a suit that really grew on me over time. I wasn't the biggest fan when I first saw it, but the more time went on, the more it became one of my favorites. Both because I love both characters that wield the suit, so that in general endeared me to it, but I really grew to appreciate how unique it is. They really make use of the Gashapon theme really well, with like just the way it's incorporated into the design, where it's a little bit goofy, but also kind of cool and creative, and I love the way that like the U-visor in general is not only unique, but the way it lights up is really super cool. And again, that's one where I can sort of see exactly where the secondary rider is meant to have a bit of a mirror of the main rider, where, you know, of course, O's is ancient suit that uses core metals, and this is a tech suit that uses cell metals. I thought that was neat. Kamen Rider Meteor is a great suit. Honestly, the only thing I don't like about it is I feel like the left or the right half or whatever, where the main shoulder pad isn't, is a little bit naked looking. I get that that's kind of part of what they were going for the design, but I find it a little bit distracting. But outside of that, it's one of my more favorite suits. It really does a great job of conveying like the space theme via the meteor idea, which just looks really cool. Of course, as people have said, it looks like a Sonic Rider, which I think is just really cool. The only other thing I don't like about it is I'm not a fan of the belt, and I feel that sticks out like a sore thumb, but none of those things prevent me from still really liking this suit. Kamen Rider Beast. Beast is an interesting one. I do like Beast design a lot. I feel it's very simple. It's very simple and almost understated in a way. I think because he mainly gets a little bit more personality when you have like the cape aspect idea, which I think works. But I'm like just surprised by how subdued it feels. But it's very just clean and good looking. It's one that I feel if it was in a different series I would love more, but there's designs in the Wizard system that I just like a little bit more. It is kind of funny though that both Meteor and Beast almost have identical feeling power-ups with the color scheme, and while I like both Meteor's main form and power-up, I don't dislike Beast, but I just really do prefer this more standard approach for his suit. Kamen Rider Baron, aka Kamen Rider Wing Knight if he was a banana. I feel like after Wing Knight you have Baron and then you have Brave, that both, they feel like they're cut from the same cloth, the same idea. I really like Baron's suit though, I really do. It does a great job of skirting that line that Gaim has of both looking cool and well designed, but also it's a frickin' banana. But yeah, I really like Baron's suit for the fact that it's basically like Wing Knight if he was a banana. I keep saying Wing Knight, which is probably going to like infuriate the purists, but I just like that name better. Kamen Rider Mach, easily one of my favorite suits. Again, I only have one thing I don't like about it, which is the little mini tire, which isn't even that bad because it's not as intrusive as Drive's tire sash, but sometimes it just looks a little fugly from certain angles. But outside of that, again, nice clean white toku suit, really looks awesome. But also I've discovered in doing these videos for rider designs, Sentai designs, so on and so forth, I really like the modern retro design, meaning like you're taking that classic core retro feel but kind of updating it in some way, and this really feels like that. It feels like a throwback to sort of classic Showa-esque rider designs but modern with a unique spin, especially with the way his helmet looks. Like it's got this look where it really does evoke that classic rider look, but it's all its own thing at the same time. Kamen Rider Spectre, great design. I hate how much I don't like Ghost because they're easily top 5 ecosystems of suits. I think I like Main Ghost a little bit more just because, did I say goat? No, I don't know. But I like Main Ghost a little bit more because the orange and the Halloween-y vibe is more strong, but this is very close second in regards to the main suits. It looks like a badass demonic ghoul, just so badass and awesome. Brave, again, video game, Wing Knight. I like Brave okay. I think of the 3 like Knight ones, it's my least favorite, but I don't know. I don't have too much to say about it. It's weird because like the X8 suits, they really grew on me. I feel like because of how much of a video game nerd I am, I should, see, it says right there, nerd. I should have liked the X8 suits more when they first came out, but they were admittedly a bit off-putting and it took me a while to get used to them. And I like Brave fine, but I think there's just more suits within the X8 system that I like more. But so, I don't know, I just don't have a lot to say. Kamen Rider Claws, great suit. Absolutely love it. So badass. It's just so well designed. In fact, it's so well designed, they just basically brought it back for Saber. But yeah, easily one of my favorites of like the core suits in that. I think it works really well. And it stands out as like pretty different from the way Builds looks, and yet it doesn't feel like it doesn't belong. Kamen Rider Gates, this one messes me up because of Geats, and I'm probably gonna mix up saying that. Just know I'm talking about Gates, the world's worst Terminator. I love this suit. You know, as I've mentioned, I think 3 or 4 times in this video, I love a good white toku suit, so I really like Geo's suit, and I talked about that in my main thoughts on main suits. And as much as I love Geo's suit, and even though it's a white toku suit, I prefer this one. I just think it's really well designed. I love the contrast of the bright red with like the yellow visor. The way the yellow visor is designed not only just looks cool, but the fact that it's meant to look like a butterfly, at least that's what I think, hence like the butterfly effect, time travel. Just, man, it's a really great suit. I really like it a lot. Then we get into the Reiwa era suits with Kamen Rider Vulcan, another series much like Ghost where I'm disappointed I don't like the series more because I love all the suit designs, and I really like Vulcan's. One of my favorite things about 01's main suit is that it looks like a Kamen Rider from the year 3000. One of my favorite things about Vulcan is it looks almost alien-esque. Like if there was ever an adaptation or something, I could see making these alien-like suits. Like there's something about the proportions that make it look alien-like, which just always made it stand out to me. Kamen Rider Blades is, I don't know how to feel about it. I like Blades fine. It's weird because Saber is another one that over time became one of my favorite sets of suits overall in terms of the designs, but it took me a while to get used to the core suits, and I've always felt that Blades, I don't even know how to describe it. It almost like blends in. Like there's elements that stick out, like you kind of got like the lion chest here, and the way the visor is so basic. It almost feels like it just blends in and is almost forgettable. Not that I dislike it, but it's one of my lesser favorites for some reason. I do really love his final power-up, though. I want to figure out of it so bad. Then you have Evil and Live from Revice, 2 for 1. Evil is one of those suits where there's nothing necessarily wrong with it that I'd be like, oh, I don't like this or that, but there's just, for some reason, it doesn't fully click with me. That's kind of the way I felt about a lot of the Revice suits. I don't know why, but there were so many suits in that series that I'm like, I should love this. Not that I hate it, but I'm like, I should be like wanting to go buy the figure art right now, but it's just like one click away from that. And that's what I feel about Evil. I like it, but it's just for some reason, it doesn't click with me on a level I think it should. On the other hand, I really like Live. I think it's a really great white toku suit. I love a good like white gold contrast. It's one that I liked from the start, and I had that similar feel to Evil where I felt I should have liked it more, but the more the series went on, the more I loved it. You have Kamen Rider Tycoon, our most recent one, and that's one I like. It's funny because in my head I never thought of him as the secondary rider for some reason, because he felt kind of more like the sidekicky third rider, but again, that's just not like, that's how I categorize it. It's just a way I was thinking about it. But I do like Tycoon's suit. His power-up's way more badass, but this is generally a solid suit. I do love the idea of a raccoon Kamen Rider, and I think it's well designed. Then you have our literal most recent one, Majade, that just debuted. This is the third series now where I hate how much I hate Gotchard because the suits are so awesome in this, and this might be my favorite suit in the series. Despite how much I like Gotchard's Prime suit with its color scheme and goggles, this is just a really clean, well-designed suit that I like a lot. We have some odds and ends here that they list as other secondary riders on the wiki. Obviously, you have Kamen Rider Nigo, who has different variants amongst the original, the first and the next, and Shin Kamen Rider. I mean, I don't have a whole lot to say. I think I basically covered it in my thoughts on the main suits, is that I have respect for the core aesthetic it laid down, but I don't have a strong opinion or favoritism to those classic suits. They do have Kamen Rider Amazon's Alpha listed, who I also already gave my thoughts on. I'll just say I do like that suit. The Amazon core aesthetic isn't my favorite, but I do have a lot of respect for its originality, and I do like the modern take with the red color on this. They also list Amazon's new Omega from Season 2, which I never really thought about or thought of as a secondary rider, just because that's a very different type of series. I do like the Prime version of this suit better, but I do kind of like this repaired Terminator look too, for what it is. And then you have Kamen Rider Hatari, which was effectively the secondary rider created for the Shinobi miniseries, which I actually forgot about, even though I recently finally finished the Shinobi miniseries. Like, I watched the Fourze. I watched the first 2 episodes back in the day, and when I was on a writer kick, I realized I never finished it. So I rewatched it in preparation for watching the Tycoon special, which I never watched yet. But anyway, I forgot this dude existed, and he's actually a pretty cool design. I have to say, one of my favorite things about the Geo era was these designs of the Future Riders. I thought that was super cool. I think this is a really cool and well-designed suit, and I love that they did that for the series. I love that for them. However, I do like the Shinobi suit better. And then I guess you also have Shadow Moon. I think this one here that they have is from, I remember right, because it's kind of a blur, is from Black Sun. And it's actually really cool. I think it does a really good job of skirting the line between a little bit more monstrous, a little bit more traditional, very well designed. But that is just my thoughts. Let me know maybe your thoughts on some of your favorite secondary rider suit designs in the comments as always. Until next time, don't forget to comment, subscribe, and climb the steps and ring that bell so you can get notifications from my videos. Dawson Rider, signing out.